on foot, got into a nearby town where there was a railroad, got on the railroad, and managed to get, by changing trains several times, managed to get to Berlin. And now you can turn to map 7. Berlin at the time was occupied by the 4 powers, US, Britain, France, and USSR, and it was actually run by the joint commission of those 4 powers. It was June 47, but there were differences developing between the 3 Western powers and the Soviet Union, because Western powers wanted to start change currency. They wanted to eliminate the original German currency and introduce new D-mark in order to eliminate inflation and black market and so on. And Soviet Union resisted because they really were trying to keep the whole area in disorder and turmoil, because they were hoping to move communism further west. France, as you know, at the time was still kind of iffy in terms of communist situation. Well, so the 3 Western powers decided, after procrastination from the Soviet Union, they decided to move on their own, and they declared a new currency for the Western zones in Germany and the Western 3 sectors in Berlin. The Soviet Union retaliated by declaring a blockade on Berlin. They claimed that there were railroad problems. They couldn't transport coal suddenly through the Soviet zone, and they're hoping to starve out Berlin by not transporting coal, that the winter was approaching, and that Western allies would have to then give up and get out of Berlin. Lucius Clay, who was at the time the American representative in Germany, and President Truman took very strong stand on it. And what happened, the Americans initiated an airlift of coal, which coal is, of course, a pretty heavy, difficult stuff to transport. And they started transporting coal by kind of a continuous shuttle from the Western zones into the 3 Western zones in Berlin, and by doing so they enabled the population to survive. Population was very much afraid of being taken over by the Soviet Union, so they were very much in favor of the Western powers. Well, as all of that was happening, and then the Soviet Union, they built a wall to separate the 3 Western sectors from the Soviet sector, and the whole thing was entirely separated. But anyway, I was living through all those experiences while in Berlin. I was admitted back to the university. I was doing my studying in Charlottenburg. You can see on that map in British sector. The technical university was in Charlottenburg. I earned my money by doing some freelance interpreting for the US military court in the American zone. They had a lot of cases where there were robberies or murders or various crimes that were committed by some Polish refugees, and mostly against Germans. And whenever an allied citizen was involved, the crimes could not be tried by a German court. It had to be tried by the allied, in this case, US military court. And that's what they were doing. So I was involved in many trials of the type. Whenever they needed me, I was available. Also, I got a part-time job with IRO, which was the International Refugee Organization, which I mentioned earlier, which succeeded UNRWA, and they had their headquarters in Zellendorf. I marked it here on the map, and I was working there part-time every day, but it enabled me, by working on it part-time, enabled me to continue my studies. I finished my graduate studies and got my graduate degree in electrical engineering in June '51, and shortly after that I got visa to enter the United States. And I arrived here in November 1951 on a military transport ship. It took us 10 days in those days to get across the ocean. Those ships were now being used to transport immigrants, and we were on one of those ships. And it was a remarkable experience for me to arrive in the New York Harbor and seeing the Statue of Liberty and start my new life. And my new life is a different story. Thank you.
Were your folks with you then? Were your folks with you when they came over? When you came over? Were your folks with you?
No.
You were by yourself?
I was entirely alone.
Okay.
I was entirely alone. My sister stayed there. Her daughter stayed there. And my father stayed there. Later, 5 years later, after I became citizen, that was the first time I went back to Europe. After I became citizen, I had U.S. passport already. That would be '56, I guess. I went and visited with them in Hanmünden, in this little town near Göttingen.
I'll be there.
And then my father visited me here for quite a while, stayed here for a while, and then went back. My sister died at some point, about 57, I guess, and she was divorced by that time. And she had a daughter who was by that time a teenager. And I sponsored that teenage daughter's immigration to this country. She arrived here, she was I guess 17 or 18, went to a high school on Long Island. I got a bachelor's degree at Hofstra University, got a fellowship, Wilson Fellowship at Columbia, got a master's, got a doctorate at Cornell University, and became a professor at New York State University in Cortland, in upstate New York. And he was professor there for a long time. In fact, some 4 years ago, she had to think of it, retired
Oh my God.
from her professorship.
Jeez.
And she's very happy. She's married, and she's happy here.
Now, you went to work for American Electric Power in New York.
Back fund?
You went to work for AEP in New York,
Yes, yeah.
and then you transferred
Yeah,
here.
I started in New York as an engineer, and gradually I
Move the
became
headquarters here.
senior vice president in New York. I was a senior executive reporting directly to the chairman. And then when we moved to Columbus, I moved with a group and continued here with AEP for about 6 years before I retired.
Well, that's remarkable.
You said you had an ID. Did it carry student? As you all those years say student in your ID? That got you a visa to go back and forth? Were you always listed as a student by identification? You said you carried an ID plus a visa and a passport. Visa lets you in based on your ID, did it not?
Well, once I arrived in Berlin as a student,
amazing how he can
then, is that the period you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. Then the German government, they gave me official German passport that was intended for use by foreigners who didn't have any other citizenship. So it was, they called it Fremdenpass, which means foreigner's passport. In other words, it was like a foreign passport, except it said in it, where it says nationality, it says stateless, but it had a provision for visas, so that by having the passport, I was required to get a visa every year to continue to stay in Germany.
But it was temporary as a student, was it
As
not?
a student, yeah.
Okay.
That's why I really had to get both documents in order to be competent, because I was getting the passport and visa because I was a student.
You are blessed to be here, and we are blessed to have heard your presentation.
Well, thank you.
Excellent, because you traveled through history that we all read about, and you were there. So thank you very much.